The Demon in the Cave. The cave stood at the edge of the valley, hidden by dense foliage and jagged rocks. Locals referred to it as the Hollow Maw, and for as long as anyone could remember, the place had been shrouded in fear and mystery. Stories of strange noises, vanishing travelers, and ominous shadows had earned the cave its infamy. No one ventured near it, not even the most daring hunters or wanderers. But for me it was a challenge I couldn't resist. My name is Daniel Hargrove, a geologist with a penchant for the unexplored. The Hollow Maw had been whispered about in academic circles for years, rumors of undiscovered rock formations, underground lakes, and ancient artifacts. I dismissed the ghost stories as superstitious nonsense. The scientific possibilities were too enticing to ignore. I assembled a small team of explorers: Lisa, an archaeologist with a sharp mind and sharper tongue; Matt, a survivalist who could navigate any terrain; and Raj, a tech expert with all the gadgets we could need. Armed with flashlights, ropes, and a week's worth of supplies, we set out to map and document the cave. The entrance was as foreboding as the legends claimed: a jagged mouth in the rock, cloaked in shadows that seemed unnaturally deep. The air grew colder as we approached, carrying a faint metallic scent that made my skin crawl. "Feels like the earth doesn't want us here," Matt muttered, adjusting his pack. "Let's focus," Lisa said, her voice steady. "The sooner we start, the sooner we can prove these ghost stories wrong." With a deep breath, we stepped inside. The cave was vast, its walls glittering with veins of quartz and strange, unidentifiable minerals. Our flashlights barely penetrated the darkness, which seemed to swallow the beams whole. The air grew heavier the deeper we went, thick with an oppressive silence that pressed against my ears. Hours turned into days as we explored the labyrinthine tunnels. We found traces of ancient human activity, primitive tools, faded cave paintings, even the remains of a fire pit. Lisa was ecstatic, documenting everything with meticulous care. But there were signs of something else too. Deep claw marks gouged into the rock. Bones scattered in strange patterns, some old and brittle, others disturbingly fresh. Once, we came across a pile of charred wood and ash that was still warm to the touch, even though no one had been here for centuries. Raj's equipment began to malfunction. Batteries drained inexplicably, and his cameras recorded static-filled footage. He grew increasingly frustrated, but I noticed something else: he was afraid. We all were. And then the noises started. At first, it was faint, a distant rumble that could have been the wind. But as the nights wore on, the sounds grew louder, more distinct. Low growls, guttural and inhuman, echoing through the tunnels. Footsteps that didn't match our own. A deep, guttural breathing that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Lisa tried to rationalize it. Caves have their own acoustics. Sound can bounce in strange ways. But her voice wavered, betraying her uncertainty. On the fourth night, we set up camp in a cavern we nicknamed the Cathedral for its high vaulted ceiling. The firelight danced on the walls, casting flickering shadows that played tricks on my eyes. That's when we saw it. A figure just at the edge of the firelight. Too large to be human, its limbs unnaturally long, its hunched frame almost spider-like. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, a sickly yellow that pierced through the gloom. We froze, our breaths caught in our throats. "What the hell is that?" Matt whispered, gripping his knife. The creature didn't move, didn't blink. It simply stared, as if assessing us. Then, with a guttural snarl, it melted back into the shadows. Chaos erupted. Raj wanted to leave immediately, but the tunnels were a maze and we had no idea which way led out. Matt insisted we stand our ground, while Lisa tried to calm everyone down. "We came here for answers," she said, her voice trembling. "We can't just run." But I knew we weren't in control anymore. The following days were a nightmare. The creature toyed with us, appearing and disappearing, always just out of reach. It left signs of its presence, deep claw marks in the walls, half-eaten animals left near our camp, and the constant, suffocating sense that we were being watched. Raj was the first to break. One morning we woke to find him gone, his gear abandoned. We searched for hours, calling his name, but the only response was the echo of our own voices. That night we heard his screams. They echoed through the tunnels, sharp and agonized, before abruptly cutting off. Lisa wept silently, while Matt sat with his knife in hand, staring into the fire. "It's hunting us," he said grimly. "We need to fight back." "But how do you fight something you can't even understand?" The next day Lisa vanished. One moment she was with us, examining a strange set of markings on the wall. The next she was gone. We found her flashlight, still on, lying in a pool of blood. Matt and I were the only ones left. Desperation drove us deeper into the cave, searching for some kind of escape. The tunnels grew narrower, the air colder. We stumbled into a chamber that felt wrong. Its walls were covered in symbols that seemed to writhe and shift under the light. In the center was a massive altar, carved from black stone. On it lay a skeleton, its bones twisted and malformed, as if it had been stretched beyond human limits. And there, in the shadows, the demon waited. It emerged slowly, its grotesque form illuminated by the pale glow of the altar. Its skin was a mottled gray, its body covered in scars and jagged spikes. Its face was a nightmare, a twisted mockery of humanity, with a gaping maw filled with jagged teeth. Matt charged it, screaming, his knife raised. The demon moved with impossible speed, its clawed hand swiping through the air. Matt crumpled to the ground, his body lifeless. I stood frozen, my mind unable to comprehend the horror before me. The demon turned its gaze to me, its glowing eyes burning with malevolent intelligence. "You came seeking answers," it rasped, its voice like grinding stone. "Now you are mine." I ran. I don't know how I found my way out. The tunnels blurred together, the walls seeming to close in around me. The demon's growls echoed behind me, growing louder, closer. When I finally stumbled into the daylight, I collapsed, gasping for air. I was found days later by a search party. I told them what I could, but no one believed me. The cave was sealed off, declared too dangerous to explore. But I know the demon is still there, waiting, lurking in the darkness. And sometimes in the dead of night, I can still hear its growls, echoing in my nightmares.